What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Nathan, and on this planet we send it. And what we're going to be getting into today, we're going to be getting into part 2 of the Boost Auto sponsored video of where we're going to be showcasing the Boost Auto trail mirrors. Now I'm out heading to finish up some clips to hopefully make this a really good video for you guys and give you a good comparison. But what we're going to be doing, like I said, this is part 2. We're going to be doing a review of the mirrors. In part 1, if you didn't see that, I'll go ahead and put a link right here. But if you haven't seen that, in that video I discussed why I chose to work with Boost Auto and have them sponsor my video. I think they're a great American company, and I definitely recommend them. And then also in that video I created a installation addendum. The Boost Auto company already has a very great installation video out there that you can follow right along, but I found that I created that video to help those that are interested in a few tips and tricks to help you streamline the process, at least from my perspective. So what we're going to be doing in this review video is, first we're going to go ahead and I'm going to showcase a brief demonstration of the mirror features themselves. As a matter of fact, if you've already seen part 1, then you've seen this at the very end, but I'm assuming just in case some of you are watching this video for the first time, I'm going to go ahead and it's a very brief video. I'm going to highlight some of the features, and then we're going to get right on into what features I chose to select and why. And then after we discuss those features that I chose to have installed, then I'm going to be showcasing each feature individually so you can see them one by one and know exactly what they're doing. And then after we do that, I'm going to be discussing where I thought the mirrors hit on the mark exactly perfectly, and just what great mirrors that these really are. And then maybe with some other areas where some slight tweaks and peaks that if Boost Auto made just some very, again, just some slight tweaks and peaks to the mirrors, that these mirrors I think would just be absolutely more awesome than they already are. All right, I got a plan in place. Risks are acceptable. Let's go ahead and send it. All right, so when you pull up the Boost Auto webpage, and I'll go ahead and put a link in the description to the Gladiator page. If you want, just go to the JL or even the JK if you desire. But right now we're on the Gladiator page, and this is what you're looking at. So first option is you got to decide what the forward light function is. I went ahead and selected the sequential signal and running lights just because I have a black Mojave, and the black Mojave comes with orange highlights. So I figured I wanted everything to remain amber and not switching back and forth between amber and white. If I had a different color vehicle, maybe I would select another one. I don't know. But at least for my particular black vehicle, I wanted to stay on the amber. So that's why I chose to stick with the sequential running lights for amber. So then it comes to number 2, where you got to select it whether or not you want the startup sequence, and I selected yes because, to be honest, I thought it was pretty cool. After you do that, you need to select whether you want the low or the high output reverse lights. I chose to go with the high just because I figured I wanted to see, what they could do, and I had seen previous videos showing that these were actually some pretty bright lights, so I was kind of curious to see how they would perform. And then when you move on to stage 4, you got to decide whether you want the upper or the upper and lower defrost. And I highly recommend to go ahead and select both, just because, especially if you're in an area that frequently throughout the year you're having to use defrost to defrost your side mirrors, then definitely don't even hesitate. Go ahead and select both. Even in San Diego, I have to use defrost, but it is worth it because both mirrors, they both focus on specific regions, as I'll showcase later in this video. So you definitely want to make sure one particular area isn't frosted over and the other one is. After that, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you have the blind spot monitoring, you want to make sure you go ahead and select yes. Now I have the Jeep auxiliary switches, so I didn't need this option, but if you did not have the auxiliary switches and you did need to select this, I went ahead and selected go ahead and add the forward facing spot light harness, just so you would know what it would cost if you chose to get all options, at least what the cost would be at the time I created this video. Alright, now we're going to briefly conduct a very little light show showing what each feature demonstrates, whether you're looking at your left or your right blinker, etc. Alright, so now you can see that they definitely are some pretty cool looking mirrors. I gotta say I am a fan about them. And so now we're going to be getting into the area to where we're going to provide a little bit of critique, a little bit of criticism about the mirrors, on where I think they were definitely, you know, hit the mark pretty well, and then maybe where they can do maybe just some slight improvements and really knock these mirrors right on out the park. So where did they go well? Well, I definitely think that the mirrors themselves with the light features, the running lights and the signals, those things are very, very cool. I was getting compliments about them on the day one as soon as I drove it after I had them installed, so those things were looking very cool. Now, where do I think that they could probably do a little bit better? Well, but you know what? I gotta say, I have the LED Mopar lights on my Jeep, so if you do not have the Mopar LED lights and you have the regular incandescent lights, then maybe this particular criticism won't apply to you, because this is where I think that my LED lights, you know, competed pretty well with these LEDs, not only forward spotlights, but the LED reverse lights. And let me go ahead and demonstrate. Alright, so here we are out in the desert where there really isn't much to look at other than the desert ground. And so what you're going to hear me say is on and off. And at the whole time here, I'm going to have my headlights on. But when you hear me saying on, that's going to be my forward spot on, and then off, my forward spotlight off. So here you can see the difference. On, off, on, off. So I think you can see, just like I was able to, and when I was doing this in person, is that I wasn't seeing much of a difference compared to when the spotlights were on compared to when they were off. And it wasn't making too much sense to me, because when I was doing the drone shots, I know that the lights were very bright. They're about as bright as my forward LED lights were, but they just weren't making that much of a difference. So I decided to come home and do a garage door test to see where the beam pattern was actually spreading. In this demonstration, I'm starting with just the headlights on, and then I go ahead and turn the headlight high beams on. And you can see the focus of the beam is very tight. It's a very bright illumination to where the driver's eye will be focused if he's looking down the road or even down the trail. And this is also where I was able to see why the spot beams were not overpowering the regular headlights, at least my LED headlights. I think it would be a different situation if you had incandescent lights, but when I turned on the spot beams, I could see that they were shining all the way up my garage door, meaning that they were covering a lot of area above where my headlights were. But this would only matter if we were in an area that, like, within a lot of trees or maybe next to the canyon walls or something. And I did see this as I was driving home. I would turn the lights on as I was entering a canyon, and I could see extra illumination where the headlights weren't up of the wall of the canyon. But this leads us right into the next section, where I think with the slight tweaks and peaks, these mirrors could be a lot more useful when on the trail. So the lighting diagram we're showing the different zones, I'm pulling from Baja Design, because I think this does a very good job of illustrating the different zones around the vehicle that you're trying to illuminate. I think Baja Design, now I'm not sure, I'm guessing here, it appears that they're trying to illuminate the end of Zone 1, Zone 3, and maybe a little bit of Zone 4, just based on where the spot beam was trying to put light on. I personally would recommend, if it wasn't possible to make them adjustable, I would recommend they focus mostly on the top part of Zone 7, Zone 6, and zone 2, with zone 7 and 2 being the main focus. I think if they're able to point those very bright lights out into those zones, this would be significantly more benefit for the trail mirrors, because they could then potentially replace any A-pillar lights that you would want to put up to cover those particular zones. Now for the reverse lights, it's a similar but slightly different situation. Currently I have the driver's side light unplugged, and I just want to highlight, you can see where the passenger reverse light, the high output reverse light, is illuminated. There's actually a good shadow of the truck being projected onto the garage itself. So the lights are actually, I was seeing a little bit of a difference, but similar to the headlights, I think that they were covering the wrong area. So here we are again with the Boost Auto zone map, and again, to fully take advantage of the Boost Auto reverse high output lights, and they are high output, again you can see a difference there. I personally think that they would be better suited if they were pointed towards the lower half of zone 7 and the outer parts of zone 8, basically covering the areas that if you were having to back up or whatever on the trail, you could see what was right next to the vehicle and just to the out part of it to assist you and maybe turning around or whatever the case may be. But that's personally where I think Boost Auto should point these mirrors at, because currently it seems like they're pointed way down the center of zone 8. All right, we're going to go ahead and close out this section with two brief criticisms towards the mirrors themselves, and not necessarily negative, but it's something that may or may not apply to you, and I do want to highlight it. So here what I'm showcasing, if you saw my part 1 of the installation video, you can see the mirrors themselves are significantly bigger than the stock ones. But what I want to highlight here is that the Boost Auto mirrors have like a inch to inch and a half spacer between the mount itself and the mirrors, and so that's going to play a big role. And let me show you here. So here I am driving down San Diego, and I currently have the camera pointed towards the mirrors right about where my eye level is. Now again, I'm 5'8", so this is about where my eye level is. So as you can see, the mirrors take a significant amount of space when you're looking 45 degrees out the driver's side. And again, for a person my size, it's pretty significant. Now, if you're a little bit taller, then you can see how looking over the top of these mirrors wouldn't be too big of an issue. And to be honest, even though I am a little bit, shorter at 5'8", I only find this to be an issue when I'm making left turns, because I realized that until I had these mirrors, I didn't recognize it. But now that I do have these mirrors, I realize when I'm making left turns, I like to look where the curve is and see, just to make sure I'm staying within the lane. And now with these mirrors there, it's very difficult for me to do that unless I lean way around the right side of the mirror. So this has absolutely nothing to do with any criticism about the mirrors, but when a Lamborghini Countach pulls up on the side of you, you may as well go ahead and record it and add it to the video just to have a nice throwback to the 1980s. And we're on to the last little criticism that I have about the mirrors, and this only applies actually to the passenger side, not the driver's side mirror. Here in a moment, we're going to be overtaking a minivan, and what I want to show you is as we continue to pull ahead of it, how close it looks as it's going, whether it's in the bottom mirror or in the top mirror. And what I want to emphasize is it seems like the magnification in the upper mirror might be a little bit too strong. And it's really not that big of a deal. It has introduced a new blind spot, even though the lower one covers the blind spot of the original OEM mirrors. Now it seems like there's a new blind spot due to the magnification of the upper mirror. No big deal, because as long as you can see that vehicle in the upper mirror, then it's way behind you. All right, that's going to go ahead and wrap up this video. So I do just want to summarize and just kind of close out the video with my overall thoughts. And I want to say that the mirrors themselves, they really are some good mirrors. I'm very happy with them, but they're not going to be great for every single situation. If you want them for the looks, absolutely good. They're just some really good looking mirrors. If you want them because you're doing a lot of towing in your Gladiator or whatever your Jeep may be, if you're actually doing a lot of towing, then these are going to be some really good mirrors for you. Also, I would think if you're doing just regular commuting, these would be good mirrors for you. And then maybe, up to overland, if you're doing some overlanding too, and especially if you're like towing a camping trailer, these would probably be some good mirrors to go ahead and consider. The only situation where I think these probably would not be mirrors, that at least I would not put them on my personal hardcore rig, anything that I'm getting at and I'm just doing a lot of real hardcore rock crawling, these would just be very big targets that would eventually be damaged, I'm pretty sure. And that would be really the only place that I would not recommend you put these mirrors on. Otherwise, these are some very good looking mirrors, and I've now demonstrated all the different features of the mirrors that I have, and you can choose whether you want to pick one or all of the features. But I can say I'm very happy with them on my Jeep Gladiator Mojave, and I definitely have been enjoying them ever since I've had them. But anyways, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one.